Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Avatar slash Korra news update video. And yeah, shocking that I'm doing a second one of these in two days. But we do have more news, and it is related to San Diego Comic-Con, like yesterday's news. And this one is probably more exciting, potentially, um, than the video yesterday. But again, it all depends on what actually happens at the thing and what the announcement actually is. But this is super interesting. So, what the news is, San Diego Comic Con 2015, starting in 2 weeks, we are going to have an official Avatar Core panel. We heard it wasn't going to have a panel. We heard that at like New York Comic Con, the last was going to be the last big Korra Avatar panel at a convention, and to some extent that is still true. This seems to be more of a smaller panel. They're listing it as Nickelodeon slash Dark Horse, so they're kind of combining the two together. They're kind of making it that, okay, this is more about the comics, and so we're in a smaller room. This isn't going to be like this huge announcement about a new TV show or anything like that. But what it is the panel is called Nickelodeon and Dark Horse Comics, Avatar The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. Very much to the point. The description for the panel reads, come celebrate Nickelodeon's Avatar universe with the brilliant minds who created it all, co-creators and executive producers Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. Mike and Brian will discuss past storylines and tease the future at a panel full of surprises and behind-the-scenes stories. So the key things to take out of this, Mike and Brian are going to be at the panel. That means it's pretty big, you're bringing the two main guys. They will discuss past storylines, that's fine. Tease the future. That is really important. Even if it's just them talking about the comics and them announcing what's coming up next in the comics, that's still good because it's our co-creators discussing where this universe is going, despite the fact that they're not working together on a new Avatar series like right now, and realistically we're not going to see another Avatar series for a while. But again, we could get something announced in relation to that at this panel. I don't think so. I really don't think they're going to announce anything animated. I really do think that most of the big news that will come out of this panel is going to be comic news because it is a Dark Horse panel. And then the panel will be full of surprises. So, some of these surprises I think will just come from maybe the stories that they tell about writing the past seasons of Avatar and Korra. And I assume we'll get some little canon pieces of information as they discuss stuff that they maybe had to edit out of Korra the last few seasons and stuff like that. But I think most of the news will be about Dark Horse Comics going forward. That is really what the Tease the Future will have to be about. Unless they do some really long tease and say that, look, we're not working together right now, we're not going to be working together for the next couple of years, but they kind of just make this really long announcement that in like a year or two we will start working a new series. They could do that, but really I think it's going to be them talking about what's coming next for the comics, because if this is going to be most of the news based around Dark Horse Comics, I'm just thinking about what are they going to announce in a panel devoting time only to that. And yes, coming up, and it won't be, the first part won't even be out by the time Comic-Con comes around in 2 weeks' time, Smoke and Shadow. But we've already had that revealed. We've known about that for so long. We've had the 12-page preview for so long. And that 12-page preview was a long preview, considering what most comic previews are. We have the cover for part 1, the cover for part 2, the descriptions for part 1 and part 2. In terms of Smoke and Shadow, I really think they should only give it like a minute or two because we know everything we need to. We just want the book now. Maybe in terms of new stuff, reveal the cover for Smoke and Shadow Part 3, the final part. We don't have that yet. That would be cool. But I think to make this news meaningful and good for the comics, what they need to do is either announce what's coming next after Smoke and Shadow for the Avatar side of things. Are they going to do that rumored time skip and say after Smoke and Shadows, we're actually going to skip ahead a few years to the next kind of big events in our characters' lives? Or, what I think probably will happen, and I think it's kind of looking good based on the fact that they're giving this show, which has been over now for like over 6 months, a panel. I have a feeling they may announce Korra comics at this panel. It makes complete sense because, as much as the last episode of Korra Book 4 was an excellent ending to The Legend of Korra, they also set it up that Korra has kind of plans to do more stuff. They didn't resolve everything in the series. There's still stuff I think that we really want to see. And it would be really cool to just see Korra doing stuff, see comics addressing the stuff that maybe only got revealed towards the end of the series. I think this has a lot of potential. I think Dark Horse would really want to do more Avatar comics because obviously they have lost the Star Wars license, and that's been a while now. And I think they do want Avatar to be one of their big franchises. And the only thing holding it back from being one of their key franchises is that they only release 3 books every year. Just one series, and there's like 4 or 5 months between each part. They need a few more. And if they had like an Avatar series running concurrently with a Korra series, and it cuts down the waiting time to like 2 months between comics, that'd be really cool. But at the same time, what they could announce is just that, okay, Gene Yang is our writer. After Smoke and Shadow, we're switching things over, and the comics are focusing completely on Korra for now. And then they're going to announce something like, and then from there we're just going to switch back and forth between the two. But I think what I'd prefer would be 2 teams, like them to announce a new team that's working on comics, so we are confirmed to be getting more comics. Now, of course, there is still the potential that none of this happens, and the surprises are just what happens in these behind-the-scenes stories that Mike and Brian are going to tell. But just because it's said to be a Dark Horse panel, I think there has to be some news about the stuff that Dark Horse is doing. Now, are Dark Horse going to be the distributors for the Zwire Industries stuff? Is that going to be part of the announcement in terms of like announcing this line of products? I assume that will probably come into play as well. Nickelodeon Dark Horse partnering up with this new company to release this stuff, that would make sense to me. But I do think the focus in terms of big news should be on like new content and new kind of actual stories. But I do think that they will announce Zwire Industries stuff going forward as well, which to me is a really good idea because that seems like really high quality stuff. Again, the price is going to be a big thing, so there's a lot of stuff that this panel could actually do. I just hope that it is more focused on the new reveal side of things rather than the old story side of things, because it is only an hour for this panel, and it is in kind of like a smaller room, so who knows what they'll do. But at the same time, we don't know. That's just speculation on my part. I don't know if Zwire Industries is going to be in any way related to the Dark Horse merchandise line for the show. I would suspect myself, or maybe it's just me hoping, but that it is more focused on actual comics. And then, of course, I think the worst thing they could do is have all the news focus on Smoke and Shadows like it's this new thing, when in fact we've known about that for a very long time now. We know so much about that series, we just need it to come out. And I don't know why there's such a delay between the end of the Rift and the start of this series. It seems like the comic team had a really big meeting at some point after the end of the Rift, and they really planned out a lot of stuff. Gene Yang has hinted as much in some recent interviews, so I think they have some big information to reveal about the comics, whether it be Korra comics or some sort of a time skip in the Avatar series. In the comments, let me know what you think is going to be the big reveals that come out of this panel, or do you think there even will be any big reveals? But for me, I'm just excited that SDCC is going to be exciting for Avatar fans. That we have the potential for a pretty cool merchandise line. We now have the potential for them to announce new story stuff in the comics. And Mike and Brian are there for an Avatar Korra panel to talk about it. Homie thought they were like just not going to talk about Avatar for a very long time. This is all exciting, and I think, 2 or 3 days ago, before all this Wire Industries stuff happened, I just wasn't excited for Comic-Con this year, but all of this stuff has just made me super excited for it. Final thing I'll say is just that if you want more discussion on this wire industry stuff, more discussion on what we think the SDCC panel is going to be, and just other stuff, Avatar Online Podcast episode 111 is going to be recording on Sunday and will be released on Sunday night. And we will be talking about all of the recent Avatar news. Our main topic of discussion after the news in that show is going to be our big preview for Smoke and Shadows Part 1. As I said, we have everything we're going to get before the book actually releases, and we're just going to go through basically character by character, discussing what we think they're going to get up to in Smoke and Shadow. So definitely a show worth checking out, especially with all this recent news. So check out the podcast. I'll probably put a link to it somewhere on my channel at some point, but definitely for sure follow me on Twitter or Tumblr, Airspeed Prime on both, and you'll find links to it somewhere. Or just go to the site, avatarthelastairbender.online.com. Other than that, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.